be difficult for those in recovery from opioid addiction to maintain their sobriety after treatment if they're returning to the same environment. If you've started your recovery and returned to the same home, in the same neighborhood, with the same social and familial network, that may not be supportive, maintaining sobriety can be difficult. The philosophy behind Andy's Place mitigates this potential barrier to recovery by providing a safe living environment with supportive services on site and a treatment plan supported by the courts and their service partners. On-site supportive services provided by Community Action Agency include addressing those life barriers that can affect recovery by creating stress. We provide money management, budgeting and planning for emergencies as critical components to reducing barriers to maintaining sobriety. And we encourage residents to move beyond a focus on immediate needs to what the future can be through goal setting and awareness. We're proud to have one of the first facilities of its kind in the country right here in Jackson County. And again, I want to thank you all for being here today. I'd like to invite our state senator, Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, to say a few words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, kiddo. Appreciate that. Yeah. Back a year or so ago, I was invited to speak at a commencement ceremony for a Christian school. So this is a group, an auditorium full of parents from a Christian school, and of course kids too. So I started the talk out by saying I'd like today my theme to be my 5 favorite F words. You can imagine what the reaction would have been. And then I turned to the parents and said, "Don't worry, moms and dads, it's nothing you haven't already heard." But actually, my 5 favorite F words are freedom to fail, fast forward, and frequently. And there's nothing that embodies that saying. I actually should add a 6th word in there, as it represents the guy who's been driving this. Freedom to fearlessly fail, fast forward, and frequently. But without Mike's spirit and his appetite to not give up, then we wouldn't all be sitting here today. There's been hurdle after hurdle after hurdle thrown down on the railroad tracks, prohibiting or inhibiting the advancement of this project. It's so important. It is an experiment that I think has a very high level of probability of success and should be, and I suspect will be, an example that will be used and duplicated across not just the state, but the nation. Community Action Agency and all the other agencies that are going to be part of this program to make sure that the folks that are actually lucky enough to be able to qualify and then have the support services there so that there's never this gap. And we're reducing the opportunities for temptation and building habits that can be sustained. I have a son that's getting out of rehab this Sunday. And we're anxious for him to come home and celebrate with him. He's got a place to go, so he's lucky. But there's so many that do have this kind of challenge that don't have a place to go. And so I'd be remiss also in not identifying and calling out Delta Dental too for your very generous and substantive contribution to this cause. I'll make sure that it's not your last. But this is really important, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm not teasing here. So thank you, all of you, for your specific part in whatever you did to help get to this day. And we all know that these kinds of complex projects that require a lot of coordination and a lot of creativity don't happen without people involved to pave the way. So you should be lifted up today just as much as anybody else is, everybody in this room. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to this freedom to fearlessly fail, fast forward, and frequently friend of mine, Mike Hurst.
Thanks a lot, Mike. You gave me a lot of credit here, but I want everybody to know this was a team effort. This is a team effort by a group of individuals who, we're not afraid to fail. And I don't think anybody in the world should be afraid to fail. It's defeat that you don't want.
Right.
We were not going to be defeated. Mm-hmm. When you fail at something, you go back, you look at it, why did I fail? You break that thing down, whatever it is you're working on, you break it down, you figure out where it is you failed. And you try again. And you keep trying again. And you go it over and over and over again until you succeed. You know, that's what failure can do for you. Failure can be a huge asset in your life if you use it the right way. I brought some notes with me today. I don't usually have talking point notes, but Kareen from Sonera said, here's some talking points. I thought to myself, well, we're crossing that one, and that one, and that one. Well, we're just going to go with some other stuff here. No, Kareen, those are great talking points. So we incorporated them in today's talk. You know, this fight started for myself, my family, my wife, Corinda, who sits out here today. One of my daughters, Lauren, is sitting over there with her. She's with child, so that's be our 9th grandchild. We're doing this for them. You know, we're doing that for every kid out there who's been struggling through life, and we want to give them a chance. We want to give them a shot. And you know, when you start looking at recovery rates nationwide, 90% failure rate, that is unacceptable in this country. We are better than that. We are far better than that. And Andy got into this. You know, he was just like any other kid, you know, a good kid. He didn't have any behavioral issues. He never got in trouble. And but he did start fooling around with prescription drugs. And at the time, I didn't know anything about him. I didn't even know he was using them. Until he came to me one day and he says, Dad, I got to tell you something. I'm hooked on prescription drugs. I said, really? What kind? He says, Oxycontin. And I said, oh, God, I've heard a lot about that. Well, geez, I'm glad it's just that, because I heard some people were using heroin in this community. Well, actually, he was using heroin, but doesn't that sound a lot better? I'm hooked on prescription drugs and not heroin. The fact of the matter is, the brain doesn't know any difference between Vicodin, Norcos, Percocet, Oxycontin, and heroin. They're all from the same family of drugs. They all do the exact same thing to the brain. And Andy fell victim to that, and so did a lot of other kids in our little community of Grass Lake. And I knew most of those kids. I knew kids since they were this high. Coached them in Little League baseball. They were good kids. They were kids with a future. Kids that are going to be something someday. Several of those kids are now dead. So when Andy died, and you know, we thought we'd done everything we could for this kid to get him over this hump, and it didn't work. And he died right in front of me. You know, so we got together as a family, and we formed Andy's Angels. You know, so we're going to do something about this. We're going to do something about this as a community. I don't care what anybody says about us. I care less. This is an important issue. We've got to get out there. We've got to get it out in the public, and there is nothing to be embarrassed about. You know, the stigma holds a lot of people back from seeking the help that they actually need. So we got it out there. We got it out there. I held our first forum on December 7th, 2010. And you know, I thought to myself, I wonder how many people, this is 10 years ago, mind you, how many people are going to come out and, let's see, 3 weeks before Christmas, right during the holiday season, they're going to come out on a December night, 7 o'clock at night, all the way out to a little school in Grass Lake to listen to somebody talk about opioids. 200 people showed up. That told me right there and there, we got a huge problem. We got a problem bigger than I even thought it was. And as I talked to more people and more young kids, and they let me into their lives and let me talk with them and leveled with me, I found out we had a huge problem. Big as it comes. Not only the kids, but the parents. And we wanted to educate the community, you know, so we did that. I started talking in schools. I've been talking in schools the last 10 years to young kids, talking in public forums, getting the message out. Everybody needs to know what exactly is going on here. How in the heck are you going to eat something when you don't know what it is you're fighting? That's rule number one. Know what it is you're up against. And you know, when I looked at that relapse rate, and Andy was a prime example of the struggle that someone goes through. You know, he went to rehab 3 times. Here's a kid who didn't, and I've never talked to any kid that was happy using heroin. Not one. You know, I've talked to kids over the last 10 years. I've never had one come and say, oh, this is a great life. I don't know why I want to quit. Geez, I like doing this. No, they're in tears when they get to me. They're in tears, and they have no idea what's going on. They don't know why they can't just stop. They've lost their purpose in life. Their dopamine level's low, so they've lost their self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, and it takes a long time to build somebody back up. Matter of fact, it takes 1 year or 2 years for the brain to heal. For the cells that create dopamine in your brain, it takes 1.5 years or 2 years for those to heal. So we take somebody and we send them out on a 30 or 60 or 90-day program that we spent $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on. They failed in the first 2 weeks. It's not the kid. It's the disease. Andy was no different. And when he died, and I saw all the things that we did for that young man to try to bring him around, and it all failed, I said, well, there's something else going on here, and we got to look at the science behind this. So we started looking at the science. Forget the behavioral issues. Let's look at the science. Let's look at what's going on in the brain. And when we did that, and we found out all these things that I just spoke about, we said we need long-term care. You know, but how do we get long-term care for people that can't afford it? You know, who can afford sending somebody away for a year and a half, 2 years? Well, the vast majority of the people in this country cannot do that. So, you know, with the help of all the elected officials that represent you in this community, with their help, with the individuals, the private business owners, the great-grandmothers who come into my office and dropped off a $2 donation. You know, I almost cried. I knew she couldn't afford the $2, but she stepped up to the plate. Well, Andy's Place is going to fill that gap. Andy's Place will fill that long-term gap that we really need to take care of the people. We need to put them in a safe environment. We need to give them some skills. Here you have somebody that's probably been struggling with this since they were 15, 16, 17 years old. And now they're 25, 26, 27, 28 years old. They have no skills. You know, their maturity level is at that age that they started using. Now, how are you going to, we've proven we can get people better. We get better all the time. And then they relapse. And, you know, if we don't give them some skills when they get out in the real world, we got to give them a few financial skills. They have no idea how the financial system in this country works. They don't know anything about interest rates. They don't know what a good loan is from a bad loan. They have no idea how to make their money work for them. We have to teach them those skills. We have to give them something that energizes their brain, gives them a purpose in life, and give them the support they need to succeed. You know, this country's in horrible shape when you start looking at the amount of people that die from this every year. And that's only a small portion of the people using the drug. You think, oh, 70,000 people died last year in this country. Oh, well, it's 70,000 addicts. No, I don't even know what that number is, but it's in the millions. They too will die if we don't rush to their side and give them the things that they need to get better. And Andy's Place is going to fill that gap. I know it's... when I started doing this, I said, you know, I just want to get one person better. I want to just succeed getting one. Well, I'm a little greedy every now and then. I want to get them all better. Now, you may think that's impossible. Somebody may say, what's he's that crazy guy out there. 90% of the people never get better, and he's talking about getting them all better. We have to have that attitude when you're in this fight. You have to have that attitude when you're in any fight, as a matter of fact. You know? When you get on the playing field, you go on the playing field, you put on the gear, you're out there to win. And that's what we're going to do here. If we can get this up and running like we think we can, if we can give some of these skills, if we can increase that recovery rate, you know, families like mine, my wife, my daughters, myself, we won't have to live that lifelong heartache of losing a child. People like Andy will live, and they will flourish. We'll be a great leader in this country sometime. Some of these kids we save. You know, a little bit of irony here on this project. 2 years ago, a kid came into my office, wanted a job. I was looking for a journeyman in the worst way. Sat down, looked at his application. I sat down and talked to him. He didn't know me from anybody. He was from a different county. Didn't know him. He just had me driving by. So I'm looking at his work history, and I says, Brett, you got a tremendous resume here, but I see there's a 3-month work gap here. What's going on with that? I coach people all the time when they go get that first job. You tell them the whole story. Don't tell them you just, I had a little drug offense, so I couldn't work for a while. No, you tell them the whole story. You tell that employer exactly how you got to where you were, and exactly what you're going to do to get yourself out of it, and where you want to go in life. And he did exactly that. I never talked to this kid in my life. So he gets done telling me this story, and he drops his head. He says, yeah, well, you know, I could start out at any wage you wanted, Mike. She said, I know nobody's going to hire somebody that's hooked on, or had an addiction problem or hooked on drugs and all that. I says, no. No, we're going to put you right to the top. We're going to put you. And he was shocked. And I said, I'm going to put you at the top. I'm going to build your self-confidence. I'm going to build your self-esteem. We're going to do something big together someday. Well, some people would call this coincidental. I like to call it divine intervention. He's going to be running this project. He's going to be running this project for our company. So here's a kid 2 years ago, for all virtual purposes, was dead. Brought him back to life. Went to a 3-month rehab. Went from there right to somebody who knew how to talk to him, how to work with him, how to build that kid back up, and here we are today. It just so happened on the timing of our projects, he was the next man up to get the next project. The next project is this job. Like I said, some people would call that a sheer coincidence. I like to call it divine intervention, and nobody's going to tell me any different. I want to tell you a quick story. It's only going to take a few minutes. Don't everybody get excited. Just about 2-3 paragraphs here. But it's called the Starfish Story. It's an old story. You've probably heard it yourselves. I like to tell it on special occasions. And I tell it to myself a lot of times, especially when I work with somebody for 6 months, 8 months, I don't know, a year, 2 years, and they die on me. I look at that and I go, geez, what am I even doing here? I can't, I'm spending a lot of time, money, and effort to make this happen, and I can't save these kids. They die on me. It's called the Starfish Story, and it goes kind of like this. Powerful words. As a matter of fact, I would suggest you memorize this story. Because there's going to be a time in life when you say, what's the sense? This effort I'm putting forth isn't working. And I want you to repeat this story to yourself. So the kid's walking down the beach. He sees an old man bending over, throwing something in the water. The kid says, hey, old man, what are you doing? The old man bends over, picks something up, throws it back in the water. He says, what'd you throw in the water there, buddy? He says, well, young man, he says, that was a starfish. He said, the sun's up, tide's out, stuck on the beach, surely die. So he picks another one up, throws it in. The kid's looking down the beach, and he says, hey, old man, as far as I can see, I see starfish that are going to die today. You couldn't possibly make a difference here by yourself. The old man has a little smile, looks at the kid. He picks up another starfish. He throws it in the water. He said, I bet it made a difference to that one. And he was exactly right. Now, I like to add something to that story. I heard that story once, and I said, I'm going to think about that story. Something else got to be added to that story. And I said, what if everybody that day was at the beach? What if everybody got up off their towel, took a little bit of time out of their leisure life, walked down to the edge of that beach? Might save every starfish on that beach. Well, I got to tell you something. I'm the old man on the beach. And everybody who's participated in this project, from start to finish, every individual who's ever contributed to Andy's Angels, all the corporations that are businesses that I work with on a daily basis that contribute to fund our organization, Snare, Delta Dental, all the elected officials who have stepped up to the plate in a huge way, looking for the people that they represent. And then here comes Delta Dental with a huge contribution. Matter of fact, Delta Dental brought the whole company to the beach that day. When we get that kind of effort, when we get everybody working on the same page, we're not looking at each other politically. We're not looking at each other because of our color. We're not looking at each other because of religion. We're not looking at each other over anything, period. We're fighting together in the same field at the same time against a common opponent. You can take every single one in this community out today. Tomorrow, there'll be a whole new group right in their place. You want to get to the dealers, and you got to take away their market. Who's their market? Opioid-dependent people in this country. Destroy their market, you destroy their business. And that's my goal. So without any further ado, and I just want to thank one more time the Delta Dental for the tremendous contribution, for stepping up to the plate. You stepping up to the plate will make others step up to the plate. And can't tell you how many people have stepped up to the plate who don't want anybody to know that they're helping from behind the scenes. To those people, I tell them thank you too today. You know, my friend here, Mike Shirkey, Senator Shirkey, I'm not going to embarrass you, Mike. We did a couple things together. I mean, his effort on and off the field has been tremendous. We did something together. He helped me out on something. I says, geez, Mike, that's fantastic. You should get a little publicity for that. He goes, no, Mike, I don't need publicity. He said, and it dawned on me. It dawned on me at that point. He's not doing it for votes. He's not doing it to get reelected. He's doing it to make a difference. And that is the same thing that everybody in this project have been doing. We're not doing it for the money. We care less about the money. We're doing it to make a difference in this country. So if we do everything we talk about today, we follow through on this, we stay on the field of play until we see this through, no matter what happens, we'll change the course of this great nation. Thank you so much, and I'd like to introduce Mark Mcdaniel, the CEO of Sonera, who's been with me right from the very start.
Likewise, Corinne gave me talking points, but I'm not a talking point person. But thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mike. We have nicknamed you Mike Bulldog Hurst in the office, which is an honor. So thank you for your commitment to all this. Senator Shirkey, all the elected officials. I mean, you guys, you wrote letters. You guys showed up in a moment where this got really bleak. I mean, when the budget thing happened, everybody quit on us.
Not everybody.
That's right. Front row, Bulldog. That's right. But there was a couple moments. Mike had to pull me out of my slump there a few times. But you know, the thing that kept me personally coming back to this over and over and over and over, and our staff and the way they hung in there on this is that, you know, their statistics, they're horrible. But you look at in 2018, 68,000 people died from opiate addictions. That's more people than military deaths from 1960, for every military event we've had from 1960 up until today. And that was all in 1 year. I mean, that is, you think about that. It makes you double down and work even harder to do something to solve this problem. Martin Luther King, actually this is the theme of the holiday celebration in Lansing on Monday, but this year's theme is that when you maintain silence, you're betraying. And you think about that. There's been a lot of silence around this problem, and we have betrayed a lot of people. Well, this room is full of some really loud mouth people that are not silent. And that's exactly the only reason Andy's place came to be, was because people were not silent, because they didn't want to betray. You know, for me, this is I've told this story, but it is very, very personal to me. As Mike, his son's getting out of rehab, what happened to Andy, my son has found himself in a very, very dark place 10 years ago with addiction, mental illness, which led, you know, when you see your kid carried out on a gurney, strapped down because they're out of the mind, absolutely out of their gourd, on drugs and his mental instability because of the drugs, you can't ever forget that. And everything that came, jail time, institutionalized, and showing up for all those things. And then sitting at his hearing at the treatment court, of all places, is where he ended up, was in the treatment court. And he got sentenced out of that. He had a, you know, that's a nice thing. You get in a treatment court, you have professionals of the court that are trained in this, probation officers, the whole social service people that understand this disease. And that he came through that, and lucky for him is that actually my career has been doing affordable permanent supportive housing. Who would have thought? And so I said, I can't let him go back to where he was. And we had one development, had one vacancy in it in Lansing. There's only one development in Lansing that does permanent supportive housing. Just happened to have a vacancy, called, I got him in there. Between the treatment court and that living environment is what saved his life. And he has gone on. I'm so proud of what he's been able to do, although every time the phone rings, this thing happens in my stomach when I see it's him or his sister, that, uh-oh, you know, is this the day? So this has been a passion for me when Judge Hoffman called and said, hey, I got this idea, but I don't even know how to carry it out. And I said, well, I got an idea. Maybe we only put these two things together with the treatment court, affordable housing, and let's see if we can come up with something. The state bought into that. We've been able to sell investors on it, and here we are today. And because of that, and all this commitment that we've talked about, we now have Delta Dental coming into this family of loudmouths. Because you're not staying silent. Because you realize if you are silent, you're betraying people. So that is, it's really something when the corporate sector, it's cool. Today I've spent my day with Delta Dental. This morning we had a press conference for something wonderful they're doing in Lansing with the King celebration. I'm down here in Jackson again. So they are great corporate citizens, and we should be thankful that we have them serving us. So I'd like to introduce our CEO, Goran Jerkovic.
Good afternoon. I too have talking points, and I'm a rule follower, so I'm going to use some of them at least. Plus, I don't want Lisa and others to feel bad that I didn't use them. But Mark, thanks again for the introduction. And we as Delta Dental feel very fortunate to be part of this coalition to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place. Thank you, Toby, for hosting us to talk about our involvement in this groundbreaking work. We are truly inspired by what we see here and to be a part of that. Delta Dental recognizes, that tackling the national opioid crisis will require ongoing collaboration. Just like everybody has talked about before me, it's a team effort, right? This isn't one corporation being involved. This isn't one dad being involved. This is a community effort, a national effort that we need to be involved in. As one of the nation's largest providers of dental benefits, Delta Dental has been and will continue to be a leading partner in the prevention of opioid abuse. We are invested in recovery efforts and stand ready to respond to this crisis. That's why we're a proud partner of this development, a long-term fix that will no doubt change lives. I'd like to highlight a few of the reasons why Andy's Place is so unique. These are where the talking points come in. Andy's Place is the first of several permanent supportive recovery housing projects planned in Michigan to address recovery holistically. It will offer 39 one-bedroom apartments for individuals referred by the courts, along with a separate building with 11 two-bedroom apartments to house families with 24-hour security. Research has shown that a key component to successful recovery is the restoring of families, and the program provides the opportunity to keep families together in a safe environment. Rent will be based on income, and individuals without an income will not have to pay. And as you can see by our big giant billboard here, Delta Dental is committed to building healthy. You notice we don't put our name at the top. We put what we're about at the top. And Delta Dental is committed to building healthy, smart, and vibrant communities, and we're proud that Andy's Place will do just that right here in Jackson, Michigan. And Senator Shirkey, I know you gave me a little bit of gas earlier, but I will tell you that when you call, Delta Dental will be there to answer. You know, we are a proud corporate sponsor. We know that we have to engage. You know, it's not just about being a company or a corporate entity. It's about being involved, understanding what the community is about, and ways that we can help. So, you know, we'll be around when things and support is needed. Just know that Delta Dental and the 1,000 employees that we represent will be there to answer the call. So we're very happy to be a part of this, very proud to be engaged with this. I think there's a big giant cool check somewhere that I think we get to present in a minute here, so happy to do that. So again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this, and know that it's very important to us as we help in the road to recovery for these individuals. So thank you. What am I doing with the check? Other than not cashing it.
Present that, so if anyone can come up.
You want us on stage down?
Anybody else have anything?
Here we are.
Jump in. Sure.
You good? Yeah, you got room. You got room.
You're good? Are we all close enough?
I was videoing. I'm gonna